Here we go. We're live. MLB live before lock Thursday, October 2nd. Big day in the baseball streets because there are 3 games today. And all 3 teams that lose are on their way to Cancun. Season is over. Big old day. Big old day, including Yanks Red Sox. Lots to talk about. I'm Josh Engelman. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter. There's a lot going on today, folks. We got 3 baseball games. I got top pitchers and top stacks, both posted to my Twitter. They're up on Tails. You should follow me there. That's all already done. We've also got Thursday Night Football. Spags and Laffy did a show earlier today, 10 a.m. It's on this YouTube channel. You can go check it out. We've got NFL live before lock later tonight for that game, Rams-Niners. Laffy and I have put together the perfect lineup for Thursday Night Football. That'll be out shortly, if it isn't out right now, imminently, within the next half hour. Not to mention, we posted a bonus lineup, 2 tails. Lots going on today. Baseball is what we're here for. And you're welcome, everybody. The show was originally going to be at 11 o'clock this morning, like it normally is. I said, no, we will not do that. Let's go live at 2 o'clock, make this a live before lock. We'll get some lineups in. We already have at least 3 of them. I didn't check to see if the Padres came in yet before we got started, but we had 3 of them before we even got started here. We've got more information. That should make it a little bit easier to talk through it all. I'm going to go until we've exhausted everything we could talk about. There's 3 games. There's 6 pitchers. We might get through this in 35 minutes, and that's enough for us at this point because we already have the first 2 lineups. There's no hidden mystery that's going to get open there. And it's not like the Padres are going to suddenly not start like Manny Machado or something, the real dudes are going to be out there. So I ran a sim before we got started, and I want to see what we've got going on here. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just trim some ownership because we're on a 3-game slate. I do want to be a little bit more different. So there's 5,000 lineups in this player pool or lineup pool, or at least something in that neighborhood. I'm going to trim the 500 most owned lineups. Easiest way to do that is to just favorite 500 lineups sorted by ownership. And I'm going to take all of those out. This more chalky than it needs to be for me, even if there are good sim ROI lineups. I want to be a little bit different. So we're going to set the cutoff at 270 percentage points. And then we'll take a look at what the exposures look like based on sim ROI. So now I'll take the top 150 and let's see what's coming out of the sims to start. And then we'll use that to figure out any sort of deep dive we want to do on pitching and hitting. So right out of the gate, we go to the pitchers. Top 150 lineups with the goal of not just running out chalk. 63% owned. Cam Schlittler for the Yankees at 8,300 is showing up in 93% of our top 150 lineups. The second most owned guy for today is Jack Flaherty. He's about 40% owned. We're a little north of that number. And then our boy Slade, 30% owned. We got 37, a little bit higher. The biggest takeaway from this information is twofold. It's the heavy stand on Cam Schlittler. Same game. It's the heavy opposite for Conley Early. Just 9% exposure, 37% owned. That is the spot that it appears from a sim perspective, we're getting different than the field. Now, on a stack perspective, there's a very clear top stack coming out of the sims, and it's not even close. It's the San Diego Padres. In the top 150 lineups, 39% of them are 5-man Padres stacks. In aggregate, we have 66% exposure to the San Diego Padres. 2/3 of our exposure are Pods bats. Next highest team is the Yanks. because that's so extreme, I'm just going to take 10 percentage points off of San Diego and just see, wow, that's crazy. San Diego's not a part of the top 10 stacks, but they're basically in everything else, which is crazy. So 10 percentage point knockdown. Did I take that down further than I was supposed to? What am I missing here? Oh, I had it saved incorrectly. I got it now. Let's look at that top 150 again. I had archived save lineups from setting the caps, and I didn't notice it. So now we've got the truth. You know what? Let's dive into the analysis, because I think that's going to be easier, because we've got some weird stuff going on today. So I'm going to pull up the top pitchers tool so you guys can see the data on the back end. Schlittler at the top of the top 2 pitcher odds, 50% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, 64% owned, slightly over-owned, but honestly nothing crazy. He's 8,300. He's also the best value. So I do think that he's properly owned in this spot. But then it's all bunched together. 38% to Slate Ciccone, 35% top 2 pitcher odds to Jack Flaherty. Flaherty pulling a little bit more ownership, Ciccone pulling a little bit less. I do find that to be interesting, given what we have here. The big leverage plays are 11% leverage on a $6,700 Yu Darvish, 25% top 2 odds, 14% owned. Jamison Taillon, 21% top 2 odds, 14% owned. That to me is the most interesting piece of this. You've got this San Diego and Chicago game, 2 pitchers with minimal salaries, 4-run implied totals, and massive positive leverage. I think the first thing that we really need to do is take a look at the betting market. So I'm going to head to OddsShopper right now and look at the live odds screen, because the expectations of depth in these games, I think, are the most important factors. So Darvish is coming in with a 3.5K prop. Taillon is 2.5. I think you can probably guess how long these guys are going in this game. Schlittler is at 4.5, juice to the over. Early is at 3.5. You'll note that that's only 4 names. No strikeout props that I see on the 2 remaining guys, which are Jack Flaherty and Jamison Taillon. We'll dig into that a little bit later. Morgan, we're going to get there. Taillon's outs prop is essentially 11 outs. Darvish's outs prop is 10. More or less, we're saying, like, if you get 3 innings out of Taillon or 3 innings out of Darvish, that's a win. Schlittler is at 11.5, juice to the over. So basically, you're hoping for 4 there. Conley Early is at 8.5, juice to the over. That's 9. It's the same, basically the same as Yu Darvish. Actually, less, full out less than Yu Darvish. The 4 outs props that we have for today are 11, 10, 12, and 9. None of those are real. We don't have any like, oh, this guy's going 6. That's not a thing today. And that's why this becomes very interesting. Because, like, should we even think about getting to early? Because I think he looks dreadful. He's 35% owned today. 35. And his outs prop is 9. How is he any different than Yu Darvish? But Yu Darvish is a third of the ownership? Am I missing something here? What am I not wrapping my head around? Because to me, we have natural, easy places to go in the pitching department to clean up our ownership. And then, because there's only 3 games, I'm just going to hop to stacks as well, just to show you guys the data. But we've got the Padres at the top of the top stacks tool at 18%. We have the Boston Red Sox at the bottom of the top stacks tool at 15%. There is no appreciable difference in the top stack odds today between all 6 teams. You want to tell me that the Padres are at the top? Sure. You want to tell me Boston's at the bottom? Sure. 15% to 18%, it helps to think about these numbers in reverse. There's an 82% chance that San Diego is not the top stack. There's an 85% chance that Boston's not. Those are the same number. Now, more or less, everybody's the same value, save for Cleveland. Cleveland is next level free. And what I think is very important, they've also got 50% ownership going to Jack Flaherty. To me, it's very clear. The best team you can get to if you want to win a contest today is absolutely the Cleveland Guardians. Same top stack as everybody else. Can fit whatever bats you want. Least owned team on the slate. Why wouldn't we want that? Because it's not like we should be looking at this thinking, well, Jack Flaherty's on the hill. What could we possibly do with that? That's not the case. Jack Flaherty on the season. And don't get me wrong. It's not that I think Jack Flaherty is bad. But 180x ISO allowed to lefties. 180 real ISO allowed to lefties. 180x ISO allowed to righties. He can give up some power. Now, he's going to get strikeouts. 25% K rate to lefties, 30% K rate to righties. But that's not, I don't care what his strikeout rate is in a stack matchup. I care what he does when they don't strike him out. 180x ISO, 180x ISO. There's something in that. And if we have a team that's pulling that low of ownership, that gets sneaky to me. Are you guys seeing what's on the screen right now? They're the number 1 team in stack score. When we combine top stack and top value, the best team, ignoring everything else, is the Cleveland Guardians. They're also the lowest owned team. And the pitcher they face is in half the lineups. This is so clear to me. Whether they end up, look, again, 17% chance of being the top stack. We're going to fail at this 4 out of the 5 times we want to take them. But we don't have a lot of opportunities in the season to take the team that grades out the best while they're also the least owned option you can get to. That's just not something that happens. So what I want to do right now is run everything again. We got a projections update at 208. We got an ownership update at 210. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's because the Padres lineup came out. I haven't looked. That would be true. So let's run a fresh pool. We're on the contest generator. I'm going to generate 5,000 lineups. We're going to sim them. We're going to trim them. And then we're going to go ahead and take a look at what our exposures look like after that conversation we just had. Because what I see is that we want Cleveland. Are we getting it? I sure as shit don't know. All right, sims are being run. Guys, hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. I'm very happy to have you guys here today. No baseball tomorrow. I don't do baseball on Saturdays or Sundays. Although we could do something on Sunday. I don't know what the schedule looks like, so let's take a peek here. So 4 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday, 2 games Monday, Tuesday. All right. My guess is that the next time you see me for baseball is Wednesday. But we'll see. Shame. All righty, here we go. First, we're going to clear our filters. We'll sort our lineups. We'll trim our ownership. So let's get rid of the 500 chalkiest lineups. That cutoff is going to be 283. So we only want lineups with an ownership sum less than 283. And now, when we take our top 150 lineups, here's where we are. Over the field on Schlittler, slightly over the field on Slade Ciccone, under the field on Jack Flaherty, lightly under the field on Early, neutral tie on neutral Darvish. We'll get there. Stack exposures. Number one exposed stack, Cleveland Guardians. We have more exposure to Cleveland than any other team at 55%. Now, we don't need that much. Cleveland, Yankees, Boston. But the first thing that I want to do as we look at this is deal with the pitching exposures. So let's play with the ROI boosts here for a second. I want slightly more of Jamison Taillon and slightly more of Yu Darvish. I'm okay with the exposure on Jack Flaherty right now. I don't really want Early. And I don't want that much Slade. But if I want to get to Cleveland, that probably happens naturally. So I'm going to boost Taillon Darvish, take 5 off of Slade Ciccone, and see how that impacts our current exposures. So now those small boosts have given us still a fade of Flaherty, slightly lighter on Ciccone. We've jumped up a bit more on Taillon. I'm going to give one more 5% boost to Yu Darvish. Otherwise, I'm pretty happy with what we have here on the pitching side. Let's just hope it's running in lockstep with the hitting, because we know we need to move Cleveland. Because if Cleveland's 15% owned or whatever, we don't need 54. So let's just see what the -10 does to Cleveland. It's going to put the Yankees in the top spot, is my guess. Cleveland, Boston, Yankees, and Detroit make up most of our 5-mans. Cleveland's still at 40%, but now it's 40 Cleveland, 32 Yanks, 30 Boston. We're getting closer. But honestly, I kind of like that. If we look at our individual player exposures, most exposed individual hitter is Jose Ramirez. Makes sense if we're taking a giant Guardian stand that we get to Ramirez. Unsurprisingly, Aaron Judge is our second highest exposed guy, but look at those exposures. Both of those guys are projected for 30% ownership. We're doubling those guys up. We don't have another guy more than 38% owned. So there's a 30 percentage point gap from our top two to the rest of it. Then we get pretty flat. It's Bo Naylor, it's Trevor Story, it's Manzardo. It's a lot of Cleveland, as we would expect. But I think that looks pretty reasonable. I'm a little surprised to see the lack of Chicago Cubs stacks here. But if we look at them in terms of stack score, this is the second most owned team. They're the most over-owned team that we have in the top stacks tool. And the Cubs get the least amount of value from Darvish because he's not all that owned. So it's lowest stack score, lowest opposing starting pitcher odds. I'm not all that surprised to not get to too much Cubs. I like that game. But I don't find it like... I kind of prefer the pitching because of where the pitching ownership is. I do kind of want to give a bump to both of those teams. Like if I just give them both 5% bumps, San Diego is at 4, the Cubs are at 1. How much does just 5% impact the amount of exposure we have to that Cubs Padres game? Because now, just that 5% bump, now it's 5-3. If we go 10-10, This should give us enough of those guys that we're not flying blind. 7 and 5, I feel a little bit better there. That has flattened out the top a little bit more. Cleveland, Yanks, both in the mid to high 30s. Boston, Detroit up next. That looks a little bit better. Gives us a couple 4-mans of Chicago and San Diego. We're filling out a bit more with 3-man stacks. Regular player exposure hasn't really moved all that much. That did impact us getting Jack Flaherty, though. We somehow ended up with more Jack Flaherty by bumping Chicago and San Diego, which I don't think is too crazy. I'll -5 Flaherty because he scares the hell out of me. But that dude could also strike out 8 today and be essential. All right, pulled Flaherty back down a hair. 7 and 5 for Chicago and San Diego feels a little bit better. That I'm starting to like a little bit more. Who on Cleveland do I see as major pinch hit risk? Okay, we could talk through that a bit. Let's see. Let's go pull up projections. Okay. I would say given the way that this lineup is set up, lefty, lefty, switch, lefty, lefty, right, lefty, lefty, right. Those spots where we're doubling up on lefties is a spot where I would expect to see Detroit bring in a lefty. And you usually want to do that to try to grab 2 batters. So, like, it's the Kafis, Chase DeLauter, George Valera trio that I could see getting swapped out for a right-handed bat when it matters. Like, there are obvious guys that we know aren't going to get pinch hit for. But just looking at that lineup right now and the way that it's set up, my expectation would be that 1 or 2 of those lefties become righty bats when a lefty arm gets in for Cleveland. Or for Detroit, rather. Sorry. Chris, I don't get the sense that Jack Flaherty is slotted to go very long in this one either. Here's one. This is the main talking point here for this slate, and it's the thing that I want people to understand the most. This is the top stack, but it doesn't matter. Tyon, Early, Flaherty, Saccone, Darvish, Cam Schlittler. This is game 3 of the wild card. If you do not win today, it doesn't matter what you did. You're just going home. So you put everything into this. None of these pitchers, I guess Flaherty to a degree, but none of these pitchers are good enough that they just let them go. The first sign, basically any of these dudes run into real trouble, they're probably coming out. And you're just throwing everything you can into this game. So if you Darvish gets through the first, and then it's single walk, single scores a run, he could be gone in that moment, especially if the lineup sets up that you can get out of it quickly with a particular left-right arm. None of these guys have a leash today because of the structure of what we've got. Everybody is a risk to get yanked immediately when it starts going wrong. Flaherty obviously has the longest leash, but everybody's throwing whatever they can at this one. There should be no trust in a single pitcher on this slate pitching past the 4th inning. I would assume that no one does that in my mind. Someone probably will, But I don't think there's anything that like makes us think somebody's more likely outside of the fact that like Flaherty's just the best arm here, probably, or at least has the biggest like sample. Schlittler might be really good, but obviously young. I mean, Conley Early's thrown 15 innings in the majors. I promise you he doesn't have a leash today. The moment he's fucked, he's gone. So now let's get to the fun part. Let's build some single lineups. And I would be remiss if I didn't start with Cincinnati or with Cleveland. Certainly not Cincinnati. They're at home now. I at least want to get 4 Cleveland bats, but because they're such a good value, it feels like I'm going to get 5 with very little effort. These guys are just so free. Manzardo, Juan, Naylor, Ramirez is like an easy 4. And then it's either going to be Rocchio or Gabriel Arias. I'm gonna take Rocchio because it's second base. I'm less concerned with a second base option. And now we're just gonna optimize off of this. 5 Cleveland bats, tons of money to go around. We go Schlittler, Ciccone, Bogarts, Judge, Tatis. That's why we like Cleveland. Because I just took what I think are like the 5 most likely to be in the lineup the whole time Cleveland dudes, right? Like we took the goods. 1st, 3rd, 4th, 7, 9. Rocchio, I could probably take Rocchio out and make a better lineup, and we'll see if we can. But think about what I just filled that lineup out with. Tatis, Bogarts, Judge. You can't really ask for anything better there. Let's find out if it's any good. But I do think that the one way to fix this is Rocchio out, get a better second baseman. Or you just take the 65% sim ROI on the first try and think, I'm the shit. 0.2% chance to win, 31.5% cash rate. I'm going to keep that one just so I don't miss it. But I'm going to take Schlittler out, Ciccone out, Bogarts, Judge, Tatis, and then I'm going to pull Rocchio. What does it change? Schlittler, Ciccone, still Tatis, still Judge. But interesting enough, it gives us Nico Herner, but it still maintains the 5-man Cleveland and gives us Gabriel Arias. Is this better? By swapping out Herner for Rocchio and changing out shortstops, that might as well be the same lineup. Look at this. 65% sim ROI to 63% sim ROI. Interesting. I think we could still do even better there. So the highest projected shortstop is Trevor Story. He's 5K. If I go back to Bogarts, does it give me Rocchio? It doesn't. Bogarts, Judge, Tatis again. But instead of a 5-man Cleveland, now it's 4 Cleveland, 2 Yanks, 2 Pods. I like that synergy, and I'd rather have Ahmed Rosario with Aaron Judge than Rocchio and just Judge. Might as well be the same sim ROI. We're in the right track here for Cleveland. I think it should be abundantly clear that it's easy to build a Guardian stack today. Now, I'm going to circle back to... Where's the message? Jason Gordon. It's criminal you have no Cubs. Cubs will be my highest scoring team today, mark my words. Let's build a Cubs. Ooh, we got bots too. Sorry, bot. Gotta go. All right, let's see what it looks like if we build a Cubs stack. Now, this is where value doesn't exist. So, let's get Carson Kelly, Nico Herner, Ian Happ, Michael Busch, Dansby Swanson for now. It fills out. Flaherty, Schlittler. Interesting that it doesn't go to a Cubs. It doesn't go Cubs pitcher here, and we don't get Tyon. But Jose Ramirez, Aaron Judge, Chase DeLauter. That is the first lineup we have. Now, DeLauter's scary, but if he hits a homer in his first at-bat, it don't matter. 3% sim ROI. Be honest, I didn't like it either, but I think we can make it better. I'm going to take another outfielder at the expense of not Carson Kelly. Maybe I'll just swap out Ian Happ. Happ at 4K, PCA at 4,500, similar value. Let's get PCA instead. And then I'm just going to go to Tyon and see what it gives me for the rest of it. Flaherty, Tyon, Ramirez, Judge, and once again, Chase DeLauter. I think this is just too much ownership. It's really hard to dodge that heavy Cubs ownership. Yeah, negative 15. We need to find a path to lowering our ownership. If I pull Nico Herner and go to Ahmed Rosario, and I can get Ian Happ back in that lineup. So that's a 4-man Cubs. Because I like Rosario there. I can't do anything with Goldie. We've already got Rosario there, so there's nothing interesting at third. Is there an extra outfielder that's interesting? Certainly not a Yankee value. Part of me kind of likes Steven Kwan here. You're going to hit leadoff. Flaherty, Schlittler, Kwan, Ramirez, Tatis, Rosario, 4-man Cubs. I don't hate it, but it's still just so much ownership. 37 to Ramirez, 36 to Tatis. I'll say this much, guys. The same thing that was coming out of the Sims. I don't see a path to the Cubs, to me liking the Cubs today. I just don't see it. Jaspu says, Tylon least likely to get Ks, but most likely to get a quality start. There's not a single pitcher on this slate that's going to get a quality start today. No one is likely to get a quality start. They're going to need a no-hitter to get to a 6th inning. Ignore quality starts today. It's just not that kind of day. Well, I have to go to the Yankees' power. You know, sometimes you just got to see it. Judge, Stanton, Goldschmidt, Chisholm, Ahmed Rosario. Jeff, I would assume everybody's available today, including starting pitchers, including relievers, including guys that threw yesterday. I think everybody's on the table. 5-man Yank stack, Stanton, Judge, Rosario, Chisholm, Goldie. 2-man Boston, Trevor Story, Jarren Duran. 1-man Bo Naylor. It does give us Schlittler against 2 Boston guys and Jack Flaherty. It's a 3-game slate. You can play 2 guys against your pitcher, that's for sure. Okay. 41, not bad. Not bad. If I throw 5% randomness on it and pull those idiots again, what does that do? Flaherty, Schlittler, Naylor, nothing. Let's try 10% randomness. Okay, I like that a lot more because now we take the Boston bats out and turn them into Bogarts, Tatis, Naylor as the one-off catcher, still Flaherty, Schlittler. Might be too much ownership because Tatis is just massive, but 44% sim ROI, 33.5%. Not all that difficult to get to the Yanks, and I think there's probably a natural path to making that lineup a little bit better. Like, Bogarts is the fourth best value option here. If I take Ahmed Rosario out and go to Volpe at 9% ownership, how does it finish the rest of this lineup? All right, one-off Duran against Schlittler doesn't bother me as much. We get Ramirez and Freddie Fermin. 91.5 projections, the highest we've seen. This might be the best lineup we've built. Still just 44%. Look at the difference here. Those first couple we built were at 88 fantasy points. This one's at 91.5. We took on 11% extra ownership. I think the natural place to look at this is how can we make that better? So clearly we want Schlittler. And Jack Flaherty is an incredible value, but he's also twice as owned as everybody else. If I go to Slade Ciccone there, that brings our projection back down, but it trims the ownership. I'm going to lock Ciccone, Goldschmidt, Chisholm, Volpe, Judge, Stanton. We're going to pull Duran, Ramirez, Fermin, and Schlittler. Now, Schlittler will go right back in. Oh, he doesn't. Well, I definitely don't want to do that. So Schlittler's going right back in. I thought that we could like that, but we don't. Naylor, Ramirez, Kwan. Okay, so this is just the full game stack. Yankees 5-man and Schlittler. Guardians 3-man and Ciccone. I think this is just going to be in the 40s again. Or we finally cracked the code and pulled the ownership down. 83% sim ROI here, 0.3% chance to win, 33% cash rate. That's the best individual lineup we've built so far. 5-man Yanks, 3-man Cleveland. 88.4 fantasy points. Basically the exact same as the first lineup, but we took 20 ownership points off of that. Same projection, 20% less owned. That is exactly what we're trying to do in the single lineup sim, is trim that ownership. Now, I don't think that I can do anything to improve this one any further, but I have to at least check. If we had any path to get off of Aaron Judge, that would be the way to do it, but there isn't one. Kwan's not owned. Volpe is helping here tremendously. I wonder if the path can be a 4-4 or a 4-3-1. Best value at first is Goldschmidt, so that's going to be a tough sell. Okay, Chisholm is the worst second baseman value option. So this could be a place that we can fix this. If Jazz Chisholm is not in this lineup, we have the ability to take on somebody better. Like, admittedly, Ahmed Rosario is a significantly better option at second base. That makes this a 5-3 Yankees Cleveland. And we've trimmed the ownership even more, but we're leaving 2,600 on the table. I got to see what this looks like. Another gem, 89% sim ROI. And there's absolutely no reason we can't improve this lineup with $2,600 in salary left. That's an 89. We can go back to the reference point of that first 65% sim ROI. It's only a half fantasy point less. Now we're 30 ownership points below where we were. So if you guys can see the lineup on the screen, and I know my head is sort of in the way. That's Judge, Kwan, Stanton at the bottom. I think we could upgrade this lineup by spending some of this $2,600. Now, I don't think it happens at pitcher. I don't think it can happen at catcher because these guys are all basically the same. We had Naylor. They're all sort of the same ownership. They're all sort of the same value. So I don't think Naylor's the choice. Goldschmidt's already the best value. I can't imagine it's Volpe that's the guy that we need to tweak here. Because Volpe is the second, actually he's the third best value. Slightly more owned than Volpe, or slightly less owned than Volpe, but a slightly better point per dollar play is Gabriel Arias. Technically, that's a better lineup, but now we have $2,700 left over. We're getting to a point where I don't know where to spend it. Like if I take Kwan out of the lineup, we can put Tatis in, but Kwan's 9% owned. That's carrying a lot of weight. I think we could crack 100 here if we like really put the work in. Because Kwan's a great value and he's barely owned. I can't do anything with Judge. Can I do something with Stanton? Because if I take Stanton out, I can put anybody in this lineup. And Stanton only has the 5th best projection, but he's also not that owned. I just want to see it. Can we take on the ownership and grab that extra point? If it's 4-3-1, but Tatis is the 1, is that enough? No, it's not. Okay, Morgan, what if we go up to Chisholm from Rosario? So that I think is actually the worst move to make mathematically, and I'll show you why. Because Rosario's 7% owned and Chisholm's 18, I don't think we're gaining enough. Even though we're spending the salary, I think we're taking on too much ownership. My guess is this is like 40 to 50. Why would I even bother saying something to Morgan? Why? What is in my mind? Why would I be like, no? We're talking about a guy right now that won $800,000+ on the baseball side like 2 months ago and won the damn Millie in the NFL a week ago. Why would I be like, you know what? I think I'm smart. I'm so stupid. 94 sim ROI, the best lineup we've built so far. Morgan, I won't doubt you, man. I'm stupid. No one should listen to me. I'm an absolute moron. Truly. It's incredible how stupid I am. You know what? If it's a 4-3-1, there's a part of me that thinks it's actually going to be better with Nico Herner. If this is anything higher than 90, I'm happy. Shit. Thought it was going to be. I think we've built the best thing we could possibly find here right now in this 4-4 Yanks Cleveland lineup. I don't think I have another spot where I can make this lineup any better. It's just that Volpe, Gabriel Arias spot. Morgan with the super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Don't be so self-deprecating. You're a wizard. Also, you're welcome. Well played, sir. Well played. I deserve every bit of that. I do want to try to figure out how I can make this lineup better, but I just don't think there's a path to it. There's not like a ownership hole that we're missing. Yeah, like we've got, best I could tell, we've got the best combination of pitching that we can get. Yeah, that's just good. All right, chat. Last one. We're going to build one more lineup before we get out of here. It's 2:45. I just want to know what you guys want to see. Just start letting it go. And if we get some overlap, that's the direction I'll take it. You got a stack you want me to do. You got certain pitching combinations you want me to do. I'll test out anything one last time before we get out of here. And I appreciate you guys being here. Einsteinium, you want Boston? You're the first answer. I'll play with it. Alrighty, Boston Red Sox. Duran clearly going in. Narvaez going in. Bregman. Nate Lowe. Trevor Story. 1, 2, 3, 7, 9. Flaherty, Saccone, Herner, Judge, Kwan. 84.5 projection. %43% owned here. Not a lot of spots I see that can fix that. We can't go to Schlittler. So Flaherty, Saccone makes a lot of sense here. Although, by lock, Narvaez, Lowe, Bregman, Story, Duran. Might as well add early. At least get some synergy. Gives us Flaherty, Herner, Judge, Wensiel, Perez. This is not going to grade out well. 82 projections too low. Yeah, 19%. All right, let's sum it all up today. If we're talking about stacks, I think that there is one answer and one answer only that is the clear best option for today's slate. If you're playing DFS, the Cleveland Guardians are the team that you want today. I would, there's nothing else I could say there. From a pitching perspective, honestly, I don't really care all that much. I want to fade 50% owned Jack Flaherty in some way. To be clear, he has the best strikeout stuff for today, but I don't love the ownership. I think Jamison Taillon and Darvish, in particular Darvish, is underrepresented for what we have today. And I would run away from Conley early because that's terrifying. Very scary spot. I hope you guys enjoy the 3 wildcard games today. It's been fun breaking all of this stuff down. There's only so much you can say for a 3-game slate, but I think we did a pretty damn good job. You guys got about 15 minutes left or whatever until we lock. I don't truly remember what time lock is, so I'm kind of making that up. 3:08. So you got 20 minutes to go before you finalize your lineups, but I recommend finalizing them with some Cleveland Guardians. Hit the like button if you're here. I'd appreciate it a ton. Check out all my content on Tails. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engelman. Plenty of stuff to go around. And the big one, NFL live before lock later tonight, Rams and Niners. Good luck, everybody.